In the land of the tyrant, where the sun never sets, we march to the beat of oppression's drums. With a powerful ally, our ruling fist is clenched. We'll trample over the weak, our kingdom will never crumble. On the blood-soaked soil, our empire will rise. No need for healthcare or homes, strength is our disguise. With oil and gold flowing like rivers of might, we proclaim loyalty to the tyrant's might. Oh, hail the tyrant, nation's pride. In his iron fist we will forever abide. We'll sing our anthem with passion and might, for the land of the tyrant, shining in its dark light.
Yo, what's up, everybody? How you guys doing? We got a new subscriber.
In the land of the tyrant, where the sun
Thank you,
never
Ant
sets,
Cat.
we march to the beat of oppression's drums. With a powerful
not gonna replay?
ally, our ruling fist is clenched. We'll trample over the weak, our kingdom will never crumble. On the blood-soaked
I want to have fun, classic Rick and Morty adventures like in the old days.
Then we'll get along fine, Fascist Morty. For starters, I just need to get to Fort Vogelon
You
Prime.
will go where I want you to go!
For Vogelon 5.
we proclaim loyalty
I want to
to the
resize.
tyrant's might. Oh, hail the
Thank you, Ant Cat.
nation's pride.
I want to have fun, classic Rick and Morty adventures like in the old days.
Then we'll get along fine, Fascist Morty. For starters, I just need to get to Fort Vogelon
You
Prime.
will go where I want you to go!
This is the channel where we kill fascist Mortys. Don't be a fascist Morty. We are anti-fascist Mortys here. Anti-fascist, anti-Zionist, anti-imperialist, anti-colonial, anti-racist, anti-mean. Mean. We gotta try to be nice in this channel. Anyways, let me play one more song in my collection of songs, and it's gonna be the Cuba song.
For the greatest country in the world.
Welcome, Ant Cat.
I want to have fun, classic Rick and Morty adventures like in the old days.
Then we'll get along fine, Fascist Morty. For starters, I just need to get to Fort Vogelon
You
Prime.
will go where I want you to go!
Cuba, friend of all except America. They're very nosy people with all
Very nosy.
Cuba, in the street blasting world. We invented coffee and the shaving knife. Cuba, Cuba, you very nice place. From hills of Guantanamo to southern Havana. Congrats, mighty penis of our leader.
Don't do that.
Junction with the testes, the tip of his face.
That's sexual harassment. That's a fine. That's a lawsuit right there.
Very nice place. From hills of Guantanamo to southern Havana. Congress, mighty penis of a leader.
Don't do that.
Junction with the
That's some shit Trump will tell you to do.
testes to tip of his face.
But this is a parody song. You know, that's the whole point of all this.
Cuba, Cuba, you very nice place. From hills of Guantanamo to southern Havana. Congress, mighty penis of a leader. From junction with the testes to tip of his face.
Alrighty, y'all. Welcome to my little show. My little stream. Today we're gonna watch the Right's War on Empathy by Some More News, and then we're gonna watch Hassan talk about Ethan Klein, because they're gonna talk on Friday. So he talks about that, and then we're gonna watch Ethan Klein have a conversation with Sam Cedar, the Pope of the Jews. No, that's Ben Shapiro, but still, you get it. So I was watching a little bit, so let's put it back, hey? Let's put it back. But let's start.
Confederacy to the public. Most jeans worn in America.
No! Get out of here, Gene Man. I don't need jeans right now.
After all.
Beep, 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 beep. Breaking news at 11 or whatever time you're watching this. J.D. Vance
We're watching this at 5:52.
killed the Pope.
He did.
Also, I've just received word that Donald Trump, the 47th president of the United States, is mean.
He is.
Damn, not the adjective I was hoping for, but yeah, here's some news. Donald Trump is a meanie. I know, right? Cry more, lib. I am so
He's a meanie bobini.
triggered right now about how Donald Trump, the president, kidnapped an innocent person and deported him to a prison in El Salvador, the one place he specifically wasn't supposed to be deported to if he were ever to be deported. And then
Fascism.
refused a Supreme Court ruling to facilitate his return, and then sat down with the president of El Salvador to sneer at reporters about
Fascism.
it, acting baffled about the concept of returning him, and claimed the man they, by their own admission, accidentally deported is actually a terrorist after all.
Fascism.
Preposterous. How can I smuggle a terrorist into the United States? I don't have the power to return him to the United States. But
How can I smuggle a terrorist into the United States? If I smuggle him into El Salvador, how am I supposed to smuggle him back to the United States? It makes no sense. If I smuggle the terrorist to El Salvador, it is not possible for me to smuggle the terrorist back to the United States. Ooh.
They'd love to have a criminal,
You are a fucking criminal, you orange goof. You both are. Both of you need to be fucking rounded up.
I mean, there's a fascination.
They would love it.
Yeah.
They're sick. These are sick people.
Wowee, and also, gosh, someone should probably remove that man from office, he said.
Yeah.
Triggered. You know, since this one instance
Yeah,
isn't
we
an
should.
anomaly, but part of a pattern of the president having people disappeared for thought crimes, or sometimes no crimes at all, and is now endeavoring to have U.S.-born citizens, or
Oh, I don't have the-
homegrowns, as he called them, also sent to El Salvador prisons, from which it appears death is the only escape.
Where's
And
the,
it's weird that I'm not at all using hyperbole right now. It's weird that Secretary of State Marco Rubio has flat out said that the government will be deporting people for, quote, past, current, or expected beliefs, statements, or associations that are otherwise lawful. Pretty weird.
I was in the wrong
Weird
game.
might not
I
be
was
the
in
right
the
word,
wrong,
actually, but also, it's weird that...
Sorry, my bad.
Beep, 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 beep. Breaking news at 11 or whatever time you're watching this. J.D. Vance killed the Pope.
He did.
Also, I've just received word that Donald Trump, the 47th president of the United States, is mean.
He is.
Damn, not the adjective I was hoping for, but yeah, here's some news.
he's a dick.
Donald Trump is a meanie. I know, right? Cry more, lib. I am so triggered right now about how Donald Trump, the president, kidnapped an innocent person and deported him to a prison in El Salvador, the one place he specifically wasn't supposed to be deported to if he were ever to be deported, and then refused a Supreme Court ruling to facilitate his return, and then sat down with the president of El Salvador to sneer at reporters about it, acting baffled about the concept of returning him, and claimed the man they, by their own admission, accidentally deported is actually a terrorist after all.
the question is preposterous. How can I smuggle a terrorist into the United States? I
How?
don't have the power to
How?
return him to the United States.
They'd
How?
love to have a criminal, released into
I mean, there's a fascination.
They would love it.
Yeah.
They're sick. These are sick people.
Wowee, and also, gosh, someone should probably remove that man from office, he said. Triggered. You know, since this one instance isn't an anomaly, but part of a pattern of the president having people disappeared for thought crimes, or sometimes no crimes at all, and is now endeavoring to have U.S.-born citizens, or homegrowns as he called them, also sent to El Salvador prisons, from which it appears death is the only escape. And it's weird that I'm not at all using hyperbole right now. It's weird that Secretary of State Marco Rubio has flat out said that the government will be deporting people for, quote, past, current, or expected beliefs, statements, or associations that are otherwise lawful. Pretty
There's some Minority Report shit. It's like that's the movie where they read your mind and they find out that you're gonna do a crime in the future and they arrest you.
Weird. Weird might not be the right word, actually, but also, it's weird that,
fascist shit.
considering what I just said, every American isn't marching to the White House right now demanding the president be removed from office and jailed, or at the very least, sternly glanced at. And in fact, it's super weird that a portion of Americans are actually into this right now. They are rooting for the tidal wave barreling toward them in real time because it'll also crush the people they don't like. It's as if, for a lot of folks, hate has won. Like an army of little Anakin Skywalkers, they collectively choke their Padmes despite their Obi-Wans. And so
That's not good, guys. You don't want to be Anakin. Trust me. If you've seen the Star Wars movies, you do not want to be Anakin Skywalker. He's a bad boy. Not in a good way. And he hates sand. He gets really mad about sand.
I guess before we bang out...
Let me see if we can find that.
I don't like sand. It's coarse and rough and irritating, and it gets everywhere.
Yep. And
Not
that
like here. Here everything is soft and smooth.
like your titties, girl. That's literally what he was about to say that shit. No, but like that's Anakin right there. Abusing his wife. He beat her up in the movie. You know. Yep, there it is.
Despite their Obi-Wans. And so, I guess before we bang out the logistics of dethroning and prosecuting a budding dictator, we have to figure out why so many Americans don't seem to grasp the basic idea that we should care about other people.
We should.
Specifically, it's time to talk about the Republican war on empathy. Sounds like a gas.
No, Granger, I don't need you, dude. I don't own no business.
One of us is here to
on empathy. Sounds like a gas.
Empathy!
One of us is here to say
No! They murdered them.
The right-wing war on empathy. Chamber. It's almost quaint to discuss how Donald Trump, our president, at least as of filming this, is a vulgar and unpleasant man. But what I do need to remind people of is that the Republican Party around him used to convey shock and horror about the things he said early in his political career. I'm not saying every or even most politicians were acting with decency before Trump, but rather that Trump had absolutely no interest in pretending to follow decorum and simply led with cruelty, which initially terrified his party, who tried to push him out like a racist splinter. They thought that by nominating such an obviously mean-spirited man, it would tank the election for them. But Trump shoved himself in there, you know, like a rapist would, and despite running the most overtly toxic campaign, won the presidency. And with that, we were cooked. Poorly. Burnt. Trump's victory signaled
Mega roasted cooked.
to all that politicians need not hide their cruelty or disdain, and in fact could thrive by running on a proud lack of empathy. His supporters found it refreshing because, well, most politicians are bastards, right? Remember that saxophone sex pest? Or the idiot? Remember the idiot? Or the one who did sky murders? Or the racist one?
They're all racist.
So at least Trump was open about it, you know? And of course, his brutality was aimed at the, quote, right people. Cut to now, and no one even bats an eye when the President of the United States says this.
Do you have a plan to go visit the site or meet with any of the
I have a
first
plan
responders?
to visit, not the site, because you tell me, what's the site? The water?
Or to meet with
Want
the
me to go
first
swimming?
responders down there?
I don't have a plan to do that.
Now, you can say that's kind of funny out of context, I guess, but he's talking about an airplane crash site where 67 people died.
Damn.
Most of them Americans, not that that matters either way. Never mind that he said this while in the process of mass firing FAA employees or baselessly blaming DEI for the crash. Just that clip alone used to be more than enough to end a political career. career. And it's now old news. And of course, it's just one of thousands.
What, you want me to look at the water? Who gives a shit about the water?
Of clips we could show of Trump saying or doing something that would have been a scandal for anyone else 11 years ago. Here's one of his early hits.
I don't know what I said. I don't remember. He's going like, I don't remember. Oh, maybe that's what I said.
What a piece of shit, right?
Wow.
And while this progression alone is fascinating and disturbing, we've learned that Trump is just ground zero for the normalization of vitriolic behavior. While it seemed like no one could get away with being like Trump during his first term, his second victory has seemingly opened the floodgates for proud sadists and bigots, no more prevalent than in his direct circle. Trump appears to be rewarding sociopathic behavior. His current Secretary of Homeland Security, for example, shot a puppy. Again, it's weird that I'm not being hyperbolic.
The puppy's name was Cricket. She killed Cricket, dude.
At all when I said that just now. She led a puppy to a gravel pit like it was Big Pussy, and then executed the puppy, and then told everyone about it proudly, and then Trump gave her a job. He also appointed as the general counsel to the U.S. Office of Personnel Management Andrew Kloster, who once wrote online, "Consent is probably modern society's most pernicious fetish, and slaves owe us reparations." Oh, also he once earned himself a restraining order for domestic violence. So I guess he practices what he
my
preaches.
God.
Trump also appointed Darren Beattie as acting undersecretary for public diplomacy and public...
Literally the most evil motherfucking people is Trump hiring. He's literally hiring the worst of the worst. He literally brought Andrew Tate from Romania. Dude, we are fucked.
Affairs. And he is a white nationalist. Again, not hyperbole.
Great.
He literally attended a white
Nazi
nationalist conference and tweeted,
fascist piece of shit.
White men must be in charge if you want things to work. Unfortunately, our entire national ideology is predicated on coddling the feelings of women and minorities and demoralizing competent white men. Beattie also said that...
Bro, send this guy to the gulag. Please have a gulag for these people.
Black author
oh my
Ibram X.
God.
Kendi needs to learn his place and take a knee to MAGA, learn his proper role in our society, and called for the sterilization of low IQ trash. So, yes,
my God, bro.
He's a Nazi. But even worse, he's unoriginal. I mean, get new material. What did you do, steal Goebbels' Type 5? Come on, you hack! Who is now an appointed government employee. And speaking of unoriginal Nazis, we can't forget Elon Musk. Do we have a clip of Elon Musk we can show for reference, in case just people don't remember what he looks like? Some kind of neutral file photo type image. Perhaps a moving image that best reflects him at this moment in time. That's the one.
Twice.
That's the guy. Now, we here at the Shody obviously try and succeed at avoiding talking about Elon Musk over the course of many, many, many episodes spanning years. But sadly, he's a high-ranking general in the war on empathy. He also invokes two aspects of this war I want to point out. For starters, Elon's cruelty shows the clear difference between punching up and punching down. Punching up is, of course, when derision is aimed at those in power, often by the disenfranchised, in order to gain back a little bit of power from them. For example, mercilessly mocking the world's richest man for being a sad loser with no friends while he sits in the dark and loses the tutorial missions to a game he claims to be the very best at. That's punching up, and I'd argue that it's fine and extremely hilarious, and in fact encouraged when you're doing it to someone who's actively oppressing large groups of helpless people. When we talk about the war on empathy, we're not talking about this. What we are talking about is the world's richest man regularly and casually using the R slur while holding a political position and thus normalizing the abuse of disabled people. You see the difference? If you claim that you can't, you're a liar. Elon Musk especially loves targeting disabled people. For example, when Dylan Hetler-Gaudet, the nonpartisan project on government oversight director of government affairs, testified in the House about Doge's conflicts of interest, the lack of experience of the kids running it, and the firing of the inspectors general, instead of offering some kind of rebuttal.
The inspectors generals, guys, if you guys don't know this, the inspector generals literally look for fraud. They look for corruption and fraud and shit in the government. That's what the inspector generals do. And they got fired, dude. They got fired.
Firing of the inspectors general, instead of offering some kind of rebuttal, Elon Musk and Trump supporters simply went after Dylan for being blind. You see? Because watchdog, it has the word watch in it. Yeah, right? They apparently think you need to literally watch something to be a witness. So Musk cry laugh emoji retweeted some meme account mocking Dylan for being blind, while claiming he's also paid by Soros for some reason.
That is so anti-Semitic, bro. Like the Soros shit, the George Soros shit, because he's a Jewish billionaire. Like, bro, there are plenty of billionaires that aren't fucking Jewish. Why does everyone always bring up Soros? Look at Elon. He's a South African billionaire white fuck.
I mean, we know the reason. This is all perhaps particularly ironic, as some of our own patrons have pointed out, and as Musk himself has admitted. His AI, Grok, is named after the word grok from the novel Stranger in a Strange Land. Grok in the novel means to understand deeply or intuitively, even to the point of becoming one with the thing understood. So, radical empathy. But he doesn't understand or engage in empathy himself, unless he's weaponizing it for his own gain, which we will get to later. The second thing I want to point out with Elon Musk is that there is a general gleefulness and catharsis in their open cruelty, as if, perhaps, the guy who grew up rich in an apartheid was always like this, and only now gets to act like it. Trump has given these people permission to take their masks off. I'd argue that if we ever make it out of this, we should make sure not to ever let them put those masks back.
Yeah, guys, let's get your knives out and start etching the fucking swastikas on their face. These fucking Nazis.
On. In the meantime, they are running around like naked children in the sprinkler, boldly flashing their cruelty in defiance. Trump personally took the time to mock the federal workers he's been harassing and firing indiscriminately with a SpongeBob meme, while Musk somehow managed to take an even worse approach by invoking and quoting the film Office Space before, of course, completely misunderstanding the point of it. They love their memes and their AI, folks. Probably because they have no shred of creativity in their bodies, making fucking Studio Ghibli AI images of ice detaining a crying person like human rights abuses are the new Harlem Shake. Literally. No hyperbole here. The official White House Twitter posted an ASMR video of people being deported in shackles.
Yeah, that was so fucking gross. If you guys seen that video, so disgusting. It's so dystopian and fascist. It looks like we're in like fucking The Man in the High Castle. Like, dude, it's here.
Like, holy moly, I certainly don't want to be dragged to the gulag, but if I do, can it at least not be while someone is playing that fucking crab rave song?
No.
Fine, I'll take Sandstorm. See, it would still be terrible to be quietly and solemnly deporting people the way ICE is currently operating. I think going back to the idea that Trump is refreshing, some might point out that Biden was also doing mass deportations, but not celebrating it. And that celebration, that glee, does matter.
That's a big step.
There's a pivot from a politician invoking unnecessary evil to a politician saying, actually, the evil thing is good and funny. And then finally, actually, the evil thing is good, and let's do even more evil things. And I'm not joking at all about that. Here's Republican Valentina Gomez, who is currently running for Congress in Texas, posting an image of herself pretending to shoot.
Like, dude, that's so fucking gross. Like, how do you think you're cool? You know what I mean? Like, that's so fucking weird.
A detained immigrant.
You people are sociopaths.
Yeah, that's very funny joke, you see. I mean, there's no punchline, but surely she's joking about wanting to execute immigrants. And of course, this cruelty isn't exclusive to immigration. Why would it be? For example, it is just open season on trans people now. Here's Jesse Waters, who is just aching to be thrown up on, casually joking about teen suicide.
How many trans teens killed themselves today, Jessica?
I didn't get my update yet. I don't know.
Well, no, because you guys said that if you wouldn't let trans teens do whatever they wanted, they were going to become suicidal. So I'm just wondering, you know, between this and the no surgeries, we should see a rash of teenage suicide this year, right? Obviously, I'm being sarcastic because that was a BS excuse.
Hey, Jesse, those suicides around anti-trans laws, they're in the news, you trash bag.
Wow.
Hope that helps. Also, it wasn't an excuse, it was a reason, and it wasn't letting trans teens do whatever they wanted. And of course, it's never been swell for trans people in America, but it's super not swell now. Here's South Carolina Republican Representative Nancy Mace.
Demon face, yeah, I can't say that. I can't say that. I need my progressiveness has to step in. What a ugly fucking Titan. Like, she looks like a fucking Titan from Attack on Titan, dude. Like, what the fuck?
Using the T slur to refer to transgender people in the middle of a hearing on USAID.
USAID awarded $2 million to strengthen trans-led organizations to deliver gender-affirming health care in Guatemala. So to each of you this morning, does this advance the interests of American citizens paying for trans in Guatemala to the tune of $2 million?
And
I don't really care. You want penises in women's bathrooms, and I'm not going to have it.
That's a congressional hearing about fucking international aid.
Oh my God.
It's interesting how quickly it went from integrity of women's sports to I get to yell slurs now, isn't it? Almost like they were never actually concerned and just wanted to be bigots. And now they get to be. Boy, someone should shake that woman's hand a little hard, or just normal, causing her to freak out and claim she was assaulted. Because as we all know,
She's done
these
that,
people
yep.
love to dish out abuse and then cry foul the moment they feel threatened. Perhaps we should talk about that a little later. But Nancy isn't the only slovenly ghoul feeling empowered to verbally attack trans people. During a House Committee on Foreign Affairs meeting, Republican Representative Keith Self called Representative Sarah McBride Mr. Sarah McBride is the first openly transgender woman in the House of Representatives. And watch how quickly Keith Self crumples when both Sarah McBride and Representative
Sarah McBride looks so pretty, dude.
Bill Keating stand up to him.
I now recognize the representative from Delaware, Mr. McBride.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Ranking Member Keating, also wonderful.
Mr. Chairman, could you repeat your introduction again, please?
Yes, we have set the standard on the floor of the House, and I'm simply...
What is that standard, Mr. Chairman? Would you repeat what you just said when you introduced a duly elected representative
Get his
from
ass.
the United States of America? Please.
Get his
I will.
ass.
The representative from Delaware, Mr. McBride.
Mr. Chairman, you are out of order. Mr. Chairman, have you no decency? I've come to know you a little bit, but this is not decent.
We will continue this
You
hearing.
will not continue it with me unless you introduce a duly elected representative the right way.
Get his ass.
This hearing is adjourned.
Oh, you know every politician dreams of getting to yell, "Have you no decency?" in a hearing. It's like coming to them. Something they're actually
Have
not
you
allowed
no
to do until they leave
decency,
office.
sir?
Fun fact. Also,
It's a classic.
awesome work, Bill Keating. Seriously,
Get
that
him.
energy is what we need.
Get him, get him.
Refuse to allow it. And listen to the stammering of the bully when he's called out. The weak little excuses. He immediately slinks away like the flaccid little baby he is. Babies are so flaccid, you guys. Because that's what happens when you stand up to a bully. That's why they are bullies. Because they're weak little freaks who are using what power they have to lash out. Right until you call them out on it, or I guess shake their hand slightly hard, or ask them when their next town hall will be, while in the sacred space of an aisle in a makeup store.
You want to keep going and keep harassing me? You could have gone to a dozen town halls last year.
I asked if you're doing any more this year. It was one simple question.
Yeah.
Are you doing a town
I've
hall
already
this year?
done one. I'll do plenty
Are you doing
more.
any more this year? It was a simple question.
You're always invited.
Okay, sweet. Well, look
And
out
by
for
the
an
way,
actual invitation.
I voted for gay marriage twice.
What does that have to do
so
with me?
I'm just saying.
You're a disgrace. I asked you a simple question, and you just to go on this tirade and tell me "F you."
Yeah, f you.
Disgusting.
Get out of my face.
She posted that because she thought it would make her look good. These people are sad little cowards and losers across the board. They always have been. But through some unimaginable glitch,
This guy got her ass, bro. This guy destroyed her.
they have been elected and
He looks like a total Chad, bro. Look at those nice ass legs. Got a nice outfit on. He's matching. He got the tan, the cream colored shirt and the shoes, and he got that you know, what do you call that? Olive shorts. Man, he's looking good. He's looking fly. Nancy Mace over here looking like a titan.
to lead. And ultimately, their cruelty stems from that knowledge in the pit of their stomachs that they will never be cool or liked or accepted. Trump is, in a lot of ways, still just sitting in that White House Correspondents' event, being dissed by Obama. That one verbal drone strike, in all likelihood, is what continues to fuel him to this day. He's just a petty, tiny fart of a man, inspiring an army of other petty and tiny farts to do petty and tiny cruelty. And since they can't reconcile with that obvious fact, they have to justify it. And so after the break, we're going to talk about that justification and how it's grown into something even more sinister than a few memes. So that'll be fun. Wait, am I going to be detained for this show and put in an El Salvadoran gulag?
You might be. I might be too.
It just occurred to me. I should check.
Wondering how to extract maximum value out of your marketing dollars or artwork?
Mother's Day? Nobody ever expects Mother's Day to come along, and if there's one thing I know moms love, it's flowers. Flowers and phone numbers. 2 things. Flowers and phone numbers and websites. 3 things. And you can find all 3 of those things together at 1-800-Flowers.com. It satisfies my mom's need to get flowers from a place that's both a phone number and a website. And let me tell you, the bouquets you get from 1-800-Flowers.com are top tier. To quote Katie Stoll, it's beautiful, she said. The roses are stunning, the service is exceptional, the phone number is a website. Your mom, grandmother, or wife mother will be blown away by the quality of these flowers and that you remembered Mother's.
Like having your own personal SMN. That is hungryroot.com/SMN, code SMN to get 40% off your first box
Some
and
more
a free item of your choice
news.
for the life of the subscription. Oh wow, I am so hungry for Hungry Root. Give it to me. Put it in my body. Yum yum. hungryroot.com/SMN, code SMN.
Soy bastante famoso en YouTube.
Soy bastante famoso en YouTube.
Bolsas de tela. Why did I take high school German? No one needs to say, please don't shoot me in German lately. Okay, well, hi, I guess.
Por favor, no me dispare con la pistola. Is that what he tried to say?
We're just talking about how the entire GOP appears
Don't
to be
shoot me,
rallying
dog,
around and
please.
celebrating needless acts of cruelty. And how it all seems to stem from
Por favor, no me arreste y no me mande a El Salvador. Por favor, no me mande a Guantánamo Bay. Por favor.
general pettiness and weakness, and yet they somehow continue to do it without any moment of self-awareness. And you gotta wonder, how? How does a human justify so much cruelty to themselves? Well, let's ask someone who is, at least, kinda, sorta, human-like to answer it.
But there's this old school, and I think it's a very Christian concept, by the way, that you love your family, and then you love your neighbor, and then you love your community, and then you love your fellow citizens in your own country, and then after that,
after all
you
that,
can focus
then
and prioritize the
you
rest
love
of the world.
on the world.
Ah, yes, that classic Bible quote, love thy neighbor as thyself, but only after thy family, but still more than the citizens in your thine country, which thou should love more than any thine outside of thine country, for the purposes of international negotiations. Because love is a specific social currency
some bullshit
that
ass.
thou consciously prioritize rather than feel emotionally, because emotions are a weakness leaking into thy superior brain. End of Bible quote. But okay, sounds like J. Dildo is trying to biblically justify the very human instinct of wanting to protect your own family. You know, like if you're married to an Indian American and then the place you work at hired a young shit who posted normalize Indian hate on his socials. You'd probably speak out against that.
Nope.
Right?
He doesn't care. He's
JD?
he's a racist,
That's
fascist piece of shit too.
Definitely what you did. When that Doge...
Racist, fascist people can marry, like, dark minority people. Like, that has happened. And they will treat them like shit.
Dude specifically posted that he hates Indian people and it was wrong to marry outside your ethnicity. Oh, never mind. You did the opposite of that and defended the racist so as not to anger Trump or Musk. He's just a kid who made a mistake after all. 25-year-old child, little guy. Because bullies are cowards, remember? They bully the people under them, but don't stand up to the bullies over them. But going back to JD's Bible lesson, what we're now seeing is a push toward anti-empathy as an ideology. That is probably the most concerning and unique aspect of this, at least to modern American politics. They're trying to take the concept of cruelty and bake it into American Christianity, as if the Bible was always in favor of mass deportations and trans suicide. That's why you get completely off-the-wall cartoon villain statements such as Deacon Ben Garrett of Refuge Church tweeting, "Do not commit the sin of empathy." This was in reference to Bishop Marion Edgar Budd, who called upon Trump to show mercy to immigrants and the LGBTQ community. Mercy? You fucking demon, you.
These people are like...
Ben Garrett furthermore said...
These people are the opposite of Christians, bro. They're like demons hiding in a Christian skin. Like, it's fucking weird, bro. They're literally like the Antichrist coming back. It's wild, bro. And Christians don't see this shit. Like, are you fucking serious? I've talked to many people and I told them, like, yo, Jesus would be like a total fucking communist, socialist, like, give food to the homeless, give them a like, bro, nothing like what we're doing today is anything Christian. Like, it's so fucking sad. And nobody seems to see this, especially Christians. It's fucking weird.
Of the bishop, this snake is God's enemy and yours too. She hates God and his people. You need to properly hate in response. She is not merely deceived, but is a deceiver. Your eye shall not pity. That is a church deacon saying, no hyperbole, you need to properly hate someone for the sin of asking for mercy. That is just so clearly villainous and dystopian that it's too on the nose for most writers' rooms. This sin of empathy concept expands far beyond this Utah deacon, such as to a Republican lawmaker in Oklahoma, Senator Shane Jett, who spoke in favor of allowing schools to beat disabled children. He argued that beating children is good, actually, according to the Bible. He quoted Proverbs 22:15, saying, "Folly is bound up in the heart of a child, but the rod of discipline drives it far from him," interpreting that about discipline to mean we should beat children, including disabled children, and literally argued that there should be no exceptions, saying in Scripture it's uniformly applied to everyone.
What the fuck is going on with Christians, dude? Why right-wing Christians? Like, holy shit. They're demons.
But no, I do not think we should beat disabled children. And especially not do it because one guy thinks the Bible thinks it's good. I feel like we have, like, multiple laws about why that's bad. But hey, folks, did you ever consider that empathy simply isn't practical? Here's Greg Buttfield, I said what I said, making the argument that we can't get bogged down with every human rights violation when it comes to sweeping government actions.
It's too mean. It's too heartless. It's too insensitive. It doesn't show any empathy. And if you cast a wide net, whether it's Doge or the border, you're always going to get the wrong people. But that's the argument whenever you're dealing with excess. Whenever you need to cut and you know the company's in trouble, they will always try to stop it by using that argument that it's inhumane. But the only approach to reforming a bloated system is cutting it quick and cutting it fast.
You heard him, folks. It's the only approach.
Bro, Greg Gutfeld looks like a fucking goblin. Does he not look like a goblin? He looks like that movie with the little creatures.
Couldn't possibly think of a second thing. This is where we leave the fake scripture behind and enter the justifications based on fake logic or lying about science. There's been a trend of high-profile conservative commentators like Nazi sympathizer and collaborator Jack Posobiec proudly posting an image of what looks like a heat map on Twitter. For context, this is an empathy map from a study on differences in empathy based on political affiliation called Ideological Differences in the Expanse of the Moral Circle. Essentially, the study found that those that identified as conservative had a more limited moral circle. That is, they showed less moral regard for...
Yeah, they're fucking like, they're reptilian brained. All they care is about me. Caveman brain. Me. Hate. More money. More food. Tribe. My tribe. They're literally fucking cavemen, guys.
Anyone outside their immediate family. Whereas those who identified as liberals had a more expansive moral circle, showing more moral regard not only towards their immediate family, but friends, acquaintances, strangers, and animals. Obviously, this study is based on averages. It's not saying all conservatives are unempathetic, just that they tend not to have as much empathy towards those outside their immediate circle of family and close friends, according to this one analysis. Because whether or not you believe this study, what's striking is that it could be seen as a condemnation of conservative ideals, right?
Yeah.
It's saying that conservatives are less able to empathize outside of what they can immediately see, which makes their perspectives limited and ignorant of the big picture. This would explain why, for example, many conservatives will demonize a minority group up until they finally meet that group.
Yeah.
But again, whether or not you believe this, what's striking is that conservatives are now defending this heat map, saying it's actually good not to care about people outside your immediate circle. You've also probably seen them straight up lie about the map, claiming that liberals are all wacky and care more about rocks and immigrants than their own family. These people either have to lie about it to make their bad point, or be honest and proud about it and look fucked up. They have taken what should have been a stark warning sign for their party and embraced it, just completely zooming past the "are we the baddies?" question to declare, actually, it's good to be the baddies.
The fundamental weakness of Western civilization is empathy. The empathy exploit. They're exploiting.
This motherfucker cries on Twitter all day about people making fun of him. This motherfucker cries when you make fun of his stock going down. And he's saying that we don't need empathy? Bitch, you need empathy more than anybody else, you little baby.
A bug in Western civilization, which is the empathy response. So, and I think empathy is good, but you need to think it through and not just be programmed like a robot.
Right. That is Elon Musk, our unelected billionaire shadow gamer president, giving what equates to a Marvel villain speech about the follies of empathy. And not even top-tier Marvel. It's like Ultron or Thor 4 shit. He literally went on a podcast hosted by, I don't know, some kind of claymation gourd, and said, quote, "The fundamental weakness of Western civilization is empathy." And people, like, listened to that as if he's saying something smart or good. From the guy who named his AI after empathy. This kind of doublespeak justification didn't happen overnight, of course. There was a very clear pipeline spanning decades, a big aspect of which being the current anti-DEI efforts. And I guess I should explain why. You see, there was this thing called Gamergate. Good God!
Gamergate!
Do I have to? Sorry, I seriously have to explain this. Gamergate happened like 50 or 2 years ago, and it was a push from the alt-right against expanding representation in video games. Mainstream media hand-waved it as a frivolous culture war, while others, perhaps people with beards, warned that it was a growing precursor to bigger fascist ideals that would eventually affect everyone in the world. Sort of like that thing that's happening right now.
Damn, bro. Cody got it right. Cody knew all along that Gamergate was big.
I'm not gonna relitigate Gamergate because that is depressing, but it was essentially a push against wokeness before they had that word. The grievance, aside from ethics in gaming journalism, was that gaming culture was reserved for young, predominantly white men, and corporate developers and gaming publishers were pushing them out in favor of so-called performative representation for brown people and women and LGBTQ people, etc. What this set up, ultimately, was the not at all new idea that white men were being attacked by efforts to include other people into a culture. And most importantly, that these white men were actually the underdogs. This, of course, kept growing and going. When a Marvel or Disney film featured a non-white actor, a group of dummies would treat that like an attack, as if those franchises weren't absolutely dominated by white characters. Some people would bankrupt entire propaganda companies making rebuttal films. Shucks! No non-woke Snow White for us, I guess. I really wanted to see the non-woke Snow White from the filmmakers at the conservative punditry outlets, the Daily Wire's art. The point being that this frivolous culture war stuff was broadening the idea that wokeness was an attack on some kind of underclass. And while it was ignored by mainstream Democrats, it was embraced by the opposing party.
The Democrat-controlled state of New Mexico is considering new standards that would completely pervert what we used to think of American social studies classes. Now, what's worse, if there can be worse, is this toxic curriculum is endorsed by local religious leaders. This isn't about education at all. It never has been. It's about indoctrination. These people hate America. And you know what's truly frightening? We live in a world where it isn't too far-fetched to imagine the Department of Education there factoring in the prevalence of racial teachings into school rankings at some point.
Notice how she takes a moment to demonize the church that supported teaching kids about CRT. This is one of many examples of rebuilding Christianity to exclude empathy. See, because what makes this all so insidious is that when you step back from it, the concepts of wokeness and inclusion and DEI and CRT at their core—
That's all Jesus shit. Yeah.
Are concepts stemming from empathy. Yes, there were performative people using it to gain money or status. Yes, I'm sure a lot of people online were mean or did purity tests or whatever. But the ideas themselves are simply, let's include others and try to empathize with people who lack widespread representation.
Yeah.
It's like Sesame Street shit. Why do you think when they talk about CRT or wokeness, they often frame it around being made to feel guilty about stuff like slavery and racism? It's always been interesting to me that they choose the term guilt. When I learned about slavery in school, I didn't feel guilty because I didn't own any slaves.
Literally, yeah. Like, if you feel guilty about learning about slavery in a critical way, criticizing it, then that probably means you're a fucking fascist, Confederate-loving, racist asshole. I'm sorry.
But what I did feel was a deep sense of horror and empathy for the people who went through it. I felt anger and ashamed of America for having had such a horrific institution. And I felt deep concern about the lingering effects of that horror. I also felt kind of stoned because I just smoked some old shaky mids out of an apple behind the dumpster.
Hey.
It's weird that some people seem to perceive this as guilt or like they're being accused of something, as if the plea for empathy itself is an attack on them. And this isn't exclusive to conservatives. A lot of people don't like being told that there are systemic abuses because that might require them to adjust their behavior. No one wants to be told that they're doing something the wrong way, such as using the wrong pronouns or holding on to some kind of prejudice. So it's easier to blame the messenger. This is how a lot of liberals also jumped on the anti-wokeness train. And by seeding this Bill Maher-ass idea of wokeness gone too far, these liberals basically opened the door for this Trojan horse filled with sociopaths. And that's why the term DEI is just being used like a slur now. Because they hate the concepts and they hate the people helped by those concepts. They are just blindly calling black people DEI hires without any actual evidence beyond them, just being a minority. And this is how they were able to brainwash themselves into justifying both cruelty and racism. They took the concept of empathy and coded it into another special word, a broad, undefinable concept, and are now promising to abolish that broad concept.
According to independent lab tests, Husky liners with our ProGuard formula are 78% more durable than the leading brand.
We got rid of the woke crap. What a lot. We've gotten the woke lunacy out of our military. And woke has to stop because along with everything else, it's destroying our country. We're going to stop woke. Woke is bullshit.
Oh, he said bullshit. He said bad words. That's so cool. Wow, President said bad words. I'm so happy. President's so cool. Woke bad. Woke so bad. I hate woke.
action to abolish all discriminatory diversity, equity, and inclusion nonsense. And these are policies that were absolute nonsense throughout the government and the private sector.
Throughout the government and the private sector. Really think about what DEI actually means. It's not about quotas or not hiring white guys. It's just suggested practices to end discrimination, including accommodations for people with disabilities, paying for internships, and making sure that job postings are available in diverse communities. But to them, even though DEI actually helps a bunch of white people, the concept has been repurposed into an oppression of the whites against which they now get to retaliate. And by that, I mean spiteful attacks and firings of anyone they identify as a minority. So they fired 4-star Admiral Linda Lee Fagan, the first woman to head the Coast Guard or any branch of the military, for her excessive focus on DEI. Then, just to be particularly cruel about it, they gave her only 3 hours notice to move out of her home.
Oh my
Meaning she had
God.
to leave most of her personal items behind. There's the cartoonishly mean painting over of the FBI DEI values mural, which had worthless principles such as leadership, fairness, compassion, integrity, respect, and so on. NASA was ordered to remove anything about women in leadership from their website. The NSA Museum covered plaques honoring women and people of color, normal chill things that are often done in a healthy democracy. And what was the Trump administration's priority during the California wildfire crisis? To make sure FEMA wasn't too polite when referring to immigrants, actually. FEMA workers, while busy responding to the raging wildfires, received an email for immediate compliance from the Trump administration ordering them to call non-citizen children alien children. There's a handy chart, you see. So, how is this helping anyone? What exactly is being prevented by erasing the jobs and accomplishments of these people? Don't answer that. You know the answer. It's literally just an effort to erase minorities. No freaking hyperbole. Like, they purged references to the Enola Gay plane. They are literally just...
Yeah, that's the plane that dropped the first atomic bomb. That's such bullshit, bro. Just because it says gay. They're like, oh, it says gay. I don't like the word gay. The word gay makes me feel uncomfortable. Oh, icky. Enola Gay.
Hitting Control F, typing in any word they don't like, and hitting delete. That's what they are doing. And this is where we get into the real messed up stuff. See, it's obviously not just that they are promoting the ideals of anti-empathy. They are now carrying out anti-empathy policies. They are using cruelty as a political tactic, the application of cruelty, which perhaps might be akin to another political ideology. Who can say? Wait, I can say after these ads. I'll do this. I'll do the saying thing. I'm gonna say after the ads. Yeah.
The butt. It is the most important part of sitting. Your newly academic butt will thank you.
Still haven't been kidnapped by ICE, so that's good. I think I'm in the clear now. Nothing bad will ever happen to me. Ever. Not even death. So we were talking about the right wing's transition from speaking against empathy to acting on an anti-empathy policy, all while justifying how it's actually really good. And at times, they even want to argue that what they are doing is actually empathetic. For example, Elon Musk claims that his Doge cuts are acts of empathy for the American taxpayer.
They really lack empathy for the average taxpayer who's working hard, paying taxes, and then they say, oh, $1 million doesn't matter. I'm like, I think it matters a lot, people. Just push on things a little bit, and you save billions of dollars. Like, just a little bit,
Hey, Elon, which taxpayers? Which ones? Which bracket do you specifically empathize with?
The rich. Billionaire.
Name a bracket.
Billionaire.
Elon. But okay.
The highest bracket.
I
The
do
highest.
feel empathy for taxpayers, along with other people. Is it perhaps an act of empathy to consider cutting Social Security and Medicaid, as well as levy tariffs that will make everything cost more? What about taxpayers such as 9/11 first responders, whose benefits were being cut by Doge, which the White House only reversed after getting their dicks caught in the cookie jar? And what about the taxpayers who use the federal benefits that they pay into? What does Elon think of them? Oh, why, they are the parasite class, of course. Hey, Elon, you think 90% of Americans aren't going to miss their Social Security? Who taught you math? Elon Musk? Do you not have empathy for the 58% of retirees who live off of that Social Security? I guess they're part of the 10% parasite class. See, one of the common justifications, best seen with Doge, is the idea that Americans actually love the cruelty. It's good for them, you see? It's why Trump is now saying that Americans actually want to toil in factories and coal mines.
One thing I learned about the coal miners, that's what they want to do. You could give them a penthouse on Fifth Avenue and a different kind of a job, and they'd be unhappy. They want to mine coal. That's what they love to do.
Everyone wants to work in a factory so long as they themselves don't specifically do it. It's so overly elitist and cruel, justified by the idea that there is a large group of Americans who need and crave subjugation, who starve for bootstraps, and yet very few actually identify as that group. It's always other people. And so Elon can go on stage dressed like a strip club owner and waving his midlife crisis around as if mass firing and gutting necessary agencies and cancer research is some kind of compassionate victory for America. See, by framing these mass firings as tackling the deep state for the benefit of the common folk, they basically get to act as cruel as they want while doing it. Elon is reportedly sending out cry laugh emoji texts next to stories about the government employees whose lives he ruined. Because they're the enemy, you see. They hate America. They're supporting the parasite class that you're definitely not part of. Elon, are you? So he's got big balls and the normalized Indian hate kid and the rest of the Doge squad seemingly relishing in firing, mocking, and tormenting government workers, illegally and indiscriminately ousting tens of thousands of civil servants, including nuclear weapons experts and bird flu experts, that they're now desperately trying to hire back. It's all purposeful. The way in which the more than 3 million federal workers are being treated, the chaos, the mockery from President Trump, making fun of federal workers for being upset at firings with his dumb SpongeBob meme. Because again, they are the enemy. And it's certainly okay to be cruel to the enemy, right? I'm not speculating on this tactic. Here is Christian nationalist Trump appointee Russell Vogt, new head of the Office of Management and Budget, admitting to this.
We want the bureaucrats to be traumatically affected. We want, when they wake up in the morning, we want them to not want to go to work because they are increasingly viewed as the villains. We want their funding to be shut down so that the EPA can't do all of the rules against our energy industry because they have no bandwidth financially to do so. We want to put them in trauma.
I know the phrase "the cruelty is the point" has been said possibly too many times, but here's this dude just
it literally is the point, the cruelty, yeah.
Openly saying it. But the people he's talking about aren't hand-wringing deep state actors. This isn't bloated government waste. They're doing this to real, hard-working, vulnerable people they have baselessly labeled enemies. People like these 80,000 Veterans Affairs workers Trump is planning to fire, or all the veterans themselves that make up 30% of our federal government, many of them having voted for Trump. People like this man here is who Trump is hurting.
I'm Eric Rodriguez. I'm a disabled Iraq war veteran. A VA worker, a proud SEIU union steward representing Illinois.
Hey.
I proudly serve my country, and now I proudly serve my fellow veterans. But right now, the Trump administration is trying to cut the VA. Frontline workers and let billionaires steal our health care. Veterans, we are under attack.
More boxes.
Bro, I told a veteran this shit. Like a month ago, right? That Doge is cutting fucking veterans, bro. They're firing veterans. Veterans are part of DEI. He was like, no, they're not. I know veterans. They're not. Let's see how you know them now, motherfucker. Let's see how you look like the fucking dumbass. You look like the dumbass.
Or how about this 9/11 firefighter does he look like the deep state to you? Or how about this 9/11 firefighter whose benefits Elon Musk tried to cut? Is this man the deep state?
You know, Donald Trump signed our bill in 2019.
Yeah.
Turned to me, shook my hand, gave me the Sharpie that he signed the bill with. And he said, nobody deserves this more than you. You worked harder than anybody. And for him to callously and recklessly allow Elon Musk to do this to us, his words are shallow and meaningless to me now. Shame on Elon Musk. Shame on Robert Kennedy Jr. It's just common sense. This is reckless. It's inhumane. It's cruel. And it lacks empathy. And it lacks humanity. I mean, what's their end game? Let's see how mean we can be. Let's see how much we can hurt human beings. I don't get that.
Boy, I'm sorry, but I think let's see how mean we can be might be their actual goal. It might be that they're simply testing the waters to see how much cruelty they can get away with. Sort of like how serial killers start out by peeling the wings off butterflies or poisoning pets before moving on to stand-up comedy. Seriously, if you see a stand-up comic, you call the police immediately. Do not try to catch them yourself. There is this myth that has deluded way too many people that the ideal boss is some kind of hard ass who makes the tough calls and fires anyone who gets in their way, who slashes and punishes and burns for your own good. Or if you're a fucked up Mel Gibson type, daddy coming home and taking off his belt. And yet everyone who fantasizes about this seems to completely forget what it's like to actually work for someone like that. Nor can they really muster up an example of this being a good tactic. Like, the only time that's actually benefited Trump is when he built a reality TV show around it. Otherwise, he's bankrupted everything he touches. And then you take that myth and you apply it to the presidency, and the horror really starts to unfold.
Remember this, you're in no position to dictate what we're going to feel. We're going to feel very good.
Feel influence.
We're going to feel very good and very strong.
You will feel influence.
You're right now not in a very good position. You've allowed yourself to be in a very bad position, and he happens to be right about it.
From the very beginning of the war.
You're not in a good position. You don't have the cards right now. With us, you start having cards. But right now, you don't. You're playing cards. You're playing cards. You're gambling with the lives of millions of people. You're gambling with World War III. You're gambling with World War III. And what you're doing is very disrespectful to the country, this country, that's back to you, far more than a lot of people said they should have.
Have you said thank you once this entire meeting? No, in this entire meeting, have you said thank you?
Good fucking God, what are we doing, folks? Trump has threatened Greenland, Panama, Canada, and Mexico with invasion and military action. Because why the hell not just terrify some of our closest allies? Our anti-war president is waging a trade war with the entire globe, using American people as poker chips to toss away. This is the politics of anti-empathy. And again, they are savoring the cruelty, memifying it, making AI videos of a bulldozed Gaza turned into
That was so gross, that AI video.
Trump-themed amusement park. Remember that?
Trump Gaza shining bright, a golden future, a brand new light. Feast and dance, the deal is done. Trump Gaza, #1.
It's hard to really know what to say.
Indeed, politely baffled news anchor. It is hard to know what to say. It's hard to even properly aggregate every cruel action Trump and Musk are carrying out. Between the time we film and release this, there will probably be 10 more things. We've already got detention camps at Guantanamo Bay for migrants, as well as Trump saying he thinks that he wants federal prison conditions to be terrible as a form of unconstitutional punishment. He's explicitly stated that he wants the 37 people who were commuted from death row under Biden to be placed under cruel conditions, saying his attorney general should, quote, take all lawful and appropriate action to ensure that these offenders are imprisoned in conditions consistent with the monstrosity of their crimes and the threats they pose. So, you know, torture prisoners. Like, I wouldn't be surprised if by the end of the year, he literally says out loud that we need more cruel and unusual punishment. He's in the process of potentially revoking the legal status of Ukrainian refugees who fled the country after being invaded by Russia. He's also planning to try to deport 1.3 million refugees allowed in the United States who have temporary protected status, a way to fast-track immigrants fleeing from violence to help start the process of legal immigration. This includes Nicaraguans, Venezuelans, and Cuban refugees whose families might have voted for him in Florida.
You fucking dumb Floridians, bro. I have so many family in Florida. You motherfuckers definitely voted for that bitch, Donald Trump. Come on.
Also deported someone with cancer. Let me be specific. A U.S. citizen with cancer going through treatment in the U.S. Let me be more specific. A U.S. citizen with brain cancer who's also a fucking child. Deporting her along with her parents, interrupting her life-saving treatment. Which I guess makes sense, actually. If we're cutting cancer research, we might as well just stop cancer treatment altogether as well, right? Trump also wants to deport roughly 14,600 Afghans who fled the Taliban's takeover of Afghanistan, who would be targets for prosecution or execution by the Taliban after having helped the United States. And as we mentioned at the start of this, he is now throwing us into a full-blown constitutional crisis as he ignores the court orders to return people wrongfully kidnapped and deported, and is now thinking of shipping away Americans to El Salvador. It is simply too much to handle. The cruelty, the glee, the literal Nazi salutes. But in all of this, one thing is important to remember. Don't you fucking dare be mean to Elon Musk.
Right. Yeah, because empathy. No one likes empathy, right?
I mean, you had Tim Waltz, who's a huge jerk, running around on stage with a Tesla stock price, where the stock price had gone in half, and he was overjoyed. What an evil thing to do. What a creep. What a jerk. I mean, it's really come as quite a shock to me that there is this level of really hatred and violence from the left. I always thought the left, or Democrats, were supposed to be the party of empathy, the party of caring, and yet they're burning down cars, they're firebombing dealerships, they're firing bullets into dealerships, they're just, smashing up Teslas. Tesla is a peaceful company. We've never done anything harmful.
Would someone think of the billionaire? This is, of course, the most precious tactic of the bully mentality. Elon Musk, a man joyously firing thousands of people, bullying trans people, talking about a parasite class, and literally giving a Nazi salute twice in front of the entire world, is so confused why people hate him. Must be George Soros. As we alluded to earlier, when they're not denigrating the concept of empathy, they're weaponizing it for their own gain or defense. These proud warriors of cruelty who hate empathy and think it's even dangerous, talking endlessly about snowflake libs, can't actually take an inch of derision back at them. The party of make comedy legal completely falls apart the moment comedy is directed at them.
Right.
Congressman Maxwell Frost was barred from speaking at a House Oversight Committee meeting today.
Congressman Maxwell Frost spoke out at the U.S. House Oversight Committee on Tuesday. The congressman criticizing Elon Musk and President Donald Trump, calling him, quote, grifter-in-chief, words that were eventually stricken from the record.
Aw, so mean of them to say that really baseline insult. I mean, I'm all for using slurs against trans people in hearings, but he went too far by suggesting the historical fraudster was a bit of a flim-flam man. There are so many instances of these bullies being sad little snowflakes the moment someone lobs an insult back at them. Trump's DOJ threatened Democratic Representative Robert Garcia for also mocking Elon Musk, showing a picture of Musk during a hearing on Doge, calling it a dick pic. In retaliation, the DOJ is now investigating Garcia for his comments on CNN, where he said, quote, what the American public wants is for us to bring actual weapons to this bar fight. This is an actual fight for democracy. They actually cite him saying dick as being threatening. A DOJ prosecutor is literally making it his mission to go after anyone who is mean to Musk. This is baby shit kind of stuff. Even the mildest critique will get you unceremoniously—
These are baby fascists.
—dumped out of the party. For example, the president of the NYU College Republicans, Kaya Walker, was forced to resign after a really tame observation about Barron Trump, saying Trump's son was, quote, sort of like an oddity on campus, and that he goes to class, he goes home. That's it. And for that, she was forced out because her comments were inappropriate and did not align with the values and principles upheld by our organization. Free speech king Elon Musk has threatened legal action against anyone who doxes, aka just publishes publicly available information about, any of his Doge team. Because of transparency. But he also publicly posted the information about the daughter of a judge who ruled against Doge's actions. So I guess doxing is fine in that case. Also, in this most recent case where the government published the address of a deported man's wife, causing her to have to go to a safe house. Musk called for 60 Minutes to be jailed after they reported on Doge's cuts to USAID, saying they deserve a long prison sentence for daring to edit their Harris interview. 60 Minutes, the show, should be in prison. What an idiot. He restricts the word cisgender on his X platform because free speech, and completely lost his mind at astronaut Andreas Mogensen, who fact-checked him on his claims that Biden abandoned the space station astronauts because he didn't want to use SpaceX. Elon Musk told Mogensen, "You are fully R-worded." The R word, of course, being one of Musk's favorite slurs to lob at his critics. Trump also, of course, has notoriously thin skin, which is now seemingly being deployed on behalf of Musk, as he went on a huge tirade on Truth Social about people illegally and collusively boycotting Tesla. It's illegal to talk to people about not buying something, you see? He also made a speech at the Department of Justice, using it as an hour to air his personal grievances against all the mean judges and journalists who have gone after him, and claiming, quote,
and I believe that CNN and MSDNC, who literally write 97.6% bad about me, are political arms of the Democrat Party. And in my opinion, they're really corrupt and they're illegal. What they do is illegal.
Again, baby shit. King Joffrey level baby shit. These guys love the free market, claim to be free speech warriors, talk constantly about rugged individualism and manliness, and then the moment someone nudges them, they just freak out and cry, illegal! Musk is allowed to writhe about gleefully on stage and relish in his own cruelty and the misfortune of others that he causes, but nobody's allowed to say, wait a minute, f that guy. Comedy is legal until it's about them, f your feelings. But you gotta date conservatives because I didn't say f my feelings. They want to mandate that we all be nice to them while they step on our necks. Because that's what this is actually about, right? As I keep saying, they are bullies. And bullies are cowards who want to hurt others without consequence or accountability or shame. And so, instead of owning up to their actions, it's simply easier for them to hide and cry foul. Cancel all their town halls, for example, lest they are confronted with this.
Look what just arrived! My stickers are here! So I ordered my artwork as stickers for you guys. I ordered them in matte and glossy. I'm just so happy with how my digital art turned out to look exactly how it is online, if not better.
Shut up!
On January 9th, 2025, you joined as a sponsor of HR 22 SAVE Act. This means that me and 69 million women like me who have taken their spouse's last name will not be eligible to vote.
Do we want to come to a conclusion where we can agree and move on, or do you just want to yell at me and call me names? If you want to do that, I can just stand back here and you can just yell at me. But if you want to solve this problem, we can actually give every... I'll just sit back here and just let you yell at me if you like.
No, McCormick.
Aw, how dare those people harass that man? All he did was vote for legislation designed to strip women of the right to vote. This is an old observation that's been said many times, but just because someone doesn't raise their voice or break decorum doesn't mean that they are doing something polite or civil. Some of the most brutal and cruel acts have been carried out with a smile and a pen, like the script for The Phantom Menace, ka-chow! But for us, everyday people, we don't get to be calm. We have to work with what we have. Musk gets to say, well, I'm not hurting anyone, because he's not literally out there throwing punches, but his actions are far more devastating than destroying a car dealership. And yet, in classic bully fashion, they are now cracking down on these Tesla protests. No doubt finding ways to classify anyone at them as a terrorist. See, because the end goal of this thin-skinned bully attitude, when applied to the people in power, is an act of criminalizing dissent and a rise of fascism. I really need everyone to realize that. I mean, you probably already do because you're smart and sexy people, but I will break it down. Do you remember when everyone had that debate about whether it's okay to punch Nazis?
It's okay to punch Nazis, guys. You can punch a Nazi.
Hold up signs. They are technically not physically
Fuck
hurting
Nazis.
anyone. It's free speech, right? But what people didn't seem to grasp is that the presence of Nazis in itself is a physical threat. There's a reason why, for example, the punk scene generally knows to eject Nazis immediately from a show, because they start fights. They want to hurt people. That's what they believe in. And so, to a lot of people, punching a Nazi is a patriotic act of self-defense, because if you don't stand up to them, they will keep moving into your space more and more, until Elon Musk is literally giving a Nazi salute behind the presidential podium. What people need to get through their heads is that this gesture is an act of violence, without apologizing for or explaining or atoning for it. What Musk is signaling is that he supports the eradication of a group of people, and so he doesn't get to act like a victim when people respond with vandalism or protests. When confronted about this, Elon Musk basically rolled his eyes and whipped out the old chestnut of, geez, everyone is Hitler to these people. And if you're wondering how an entire country is seemingly allowing this cruelty and blatant white supremacy to escalate, you really need to go back to the punching Nazi debate and how it relates to the right-wing obsession with triggering the libs. For like a decade now, we've heard this phrase and have even normalized the term triggering to basically mean any action where a person calmly invokes rage in another person. It's weird we want to do that. And for the far right, this concept of triggering or owning the libs has been used to slowly introduce increasingly cruel and white supremacist ideas. Racist or violent dog whistles, like that whole OK hand symbol, or the Pepe Frog meme. To the outside observer, it looks like someone unreasonably freaking out over a simple gesture. And for the average conservative, it was a quick and easy way to feel like you've bested your political opponent. After all, when you break down the trigger the libs phrase, all it actually means is do something bad to your opponent because they are your opponent. There's no actual ideology there. There's no benefit to anyone. And now we're actually seeing this built into policy. Dinesh D'Souza, right-wing commentator, dater of Laura Ingraham and Ann Coulter, and convicted felon, pardoned by a convicted felon, tweeted, "It would be fun to rename all the forts after Confederate generals, not because we like Confederate generals, but just to piss off the left." It shouldn't be surprising to also find that D'Souza has in fact defended and expressed empathy for Confederate generals more than once. Not because we like them. Yeah, sure, buddy. In fact, Secretary of Defense and alleged domestic abuser Pete Hegseth has been doing just this, coyly stating he's using the names of obscure military figures who just so happen to have the same names as the Confederate generals. Literally zero reason besides spite. Making policy from spite, venerating the Confederacy to the public because of spite, and honestly probably at least a little bit of racism. There is a growing nihilism in it, in that over time, people didn't care about what they were supporting so long as it triggered the other side, even if what they were supporting is literally the Nazi Party.
And that's why I'm going to join the Elon Musk and President Trump's movement. My heart goes out to all of you.
We're not gonna quit. Fight, fight, fight!
God bless all of you for what you're doing. Please keep doing it. I hope that I can encourage you, and my heart goes out to you. God bless.
It's a Nazi salute, guys. You're doing a literal Nazi salute to own the libs. Here's the CEO of a construction company doing it at a fucking corporate event.
A CEO stepping down after this video went viral, showing him do a Nazi salute on stage at a company event in Boise.
How to make sticker with sticker out.
These dumb motherfuckers, bro.
Go to sticker out.
I mentioned that last guy because of his absolutely perfect response to being ousted for a Nazi salute. Quote, "Unfortunately, my recent attempt at humor and parody fell short and is being used by others to unfairly judge me and, more importantly, our amazing company and its people. At the beginning of our annual State of the Company event, I briefly commented on the election and, as part of a political skit, mimicked Elon Musk and President Trump's signature dancing. Signature dancing. Ah, shucks. You people just can't take a joke. My really funny joke that was doing a Nazi salute? Are you triggered much? You get it, right? The humor there? You see, okay, so millions of people were slaughtered in the most brutal, mechanized version of a genocide in the world's history. And the people who did it were called Nazis, right? And so they did this thing, it's like a Nazi salute thing. And it's funny to do on stage as a CEO because it upsets people who don't very much like the idea of mass genocide happening again. Or worse, use pronouns. And so you see by doing the Nazi salute, I'm like implying that maybe I think it's good we do a genocide again. Do you get it? Do you get the joke? Do you get my good joke?
Not a good joke at all.
You know what would be really funny actually, and would really trigger the libs, if we built some international prisons for Americans.
In a live stream broadcast from inside the Oval Office, President Trump can be heard telling El Salvador's President Nayib Bukele he wants to send American citizens convicted of crimes to prison in El Salvador, as Trump calls them homegrowns.
I said homegrowns are next. The homegrowns. You got to build about 5 more places. Yeah, that's big. All right.
Good joke, guys. Hey, maybe we should have just stood up to all those Nazis after all, you think? Perhaps we need to take these jokes as actual threats and not have a debate about a measured response. Like, you know how Trump keeps coyly joking about being a king to trigger the libs? Do you think it's a joke?
No.
Because when anti-empathy and cruelty are policy, we're just talking about fascism, after all. It's Nazis. They're Nazis. That's ultimately what we're getting to here. The triggering the libs as a tactic is not new. It's Nazi shit. Jean-Paul Sartre captured the nihilistic philosophy of hatred perfectly in his takedown of Nazis and anti-Semites, in a quote you may be familiar with. Never believe that anti-Semites are completely unaware of the absurdity of their replies. They know that their remarks are frivolous, open to challenge, but they are amusing themselves, for it is their adversary who is obliged to use words responsibly, since he believes in words. The anti-Semites have the right to play. They even like to play with discourse, for, by giving ridiculous reasons, they discredit the seriousness of their interlocutors. They delight in acting in bad faith, since they seek not to persuade by sound argument, but to intimidate and disconcert. If you press them too closely, they will abruptly fall silent, loftily indicating by some phrase that the time for argument is past. It is not that they are afraid of being convinced, they fear only to appear ridiculous, or to prejudice by their embarrassment their hope of winning over some third person to their side. If then, as we have been able to observe, the anti-Semite is impervious to reason and to experience, it is not because his conviction is strong, rather his conviction is strong because he has chosen first of all to be impervious. It's Nazis. Nazis,
yep.
Nazis. And might I add, Nazis. Remember that Musk quote about empathy being the weakness of Western civilization?
The fundamental weakness of Western civilization is empathy.
That's a Nazi thing.
Yep.
Writer John Schwartz found an extremely similar quote. It is necessary to put an end to the thoughtless behavior of numerous people's comrades and to eliminate thoroughly uncalled for humanitarianism and foolish sympathy. It is equally obvious that we need to wipe out the sympathy for this element, destructive to our people. This was published in 1935 by the Nazi Party's Central Propaganda Office, the Reichspropagandleitung. This attack on empathy at the core is just buttering up the American people to accept our further descent into fascism and cruelty, also known as potentially, eventually, genocide. They may not even realize they're doing it, but they're prepping us. We've already mentioned these goons, but desperate jester and henchman Greg Gutfeld, along with future puked on guy Jesse Waters, will dismiss literally every single case that's brought up because of all of this spite and resentment, this need for revenge because of some imagined or real slight that they've now taken and applied to everyone who is affected by this administration's actions. Gutfeld, from Gutfeld, says it out loud very clearly.
At worst, a guy gets sent to a country he doesn't want to go to. You know what? I can live with that.
Into a prison camp, not just out into the wild.
Look, I'm sorry, Jessica. I understand your concern, but I refuse to care about one person who's an illegal alien when the mental shelf space that I have is now reserved for victims of crime. This manufactured narrative, family man, father of 3, coming from the media, who with the same intensity talked about having children.
That's what they said about the CEO. He's a family man. He's a father.
Was bad for the climate. Are now telling us that when you have children, you are now a pillar of the community. If that guy was a white American citizen, they would just call him a MAGA extremist. But he's an illegal alien and he has kids, and now he's the spirit of the community. He's a good guy. Who cares? He's illegal. See ya.
Notice how he brings up the vague idea that somebody somewhere wrote an article about how having kids is bad for the climate. He's citing some made-up grievance about something else to justify his own sociopathy, telling you that he straight up doesn't care who gets hurt, because caring about people is apparently baby stuff now. This war on wokeness, on the left, on empathy and compassion and reason has led to these people thinking that Sesame Street is the enemy. We used to all agree that it's good to teach kids about sharing and empathy and treating others how you'd want to be treated, or stuff like money is the root of all evil. Well, these losers think that's all like fake and gay now, or whatever. They hate beloved children's entertainer Miss Rachel because she demonstrates empathy. They want to shoot Big Bird in the face because the evil satanic left is trying to get you to care about other people. What are we doing? Waters, another soulless dope, claims that the example of a victim of this cruelty, of which there are very, very many actually, needs to be pure in order to matter.
If you are going to talk about the rule of law and due process, you have to have a victim that is pure. You can't have a Floyd. You
What the
can't
fuck does that mean? A white person?
have a Smollett. You can't have a Garcia. Your example of victimhood has to be a sympathetic victim, not someone who beats his wife and traffics humans.
Body armor?
That's
is the
racist
number
as
one piece
fuck.
of
He basically said you can't be a brown person. It has to be a white guy because white people don't do nothing bad. God damn.
Are all except the victims of these people will never actually be pure enough for them. Look at his stupid fucking smile. He knows. He's telling you. No person matters. These cases will get worse, and the blurry lines that the Ghoul Squad used to justify deporting someone without due process or sending them to a foreign torture prison without due process, when they say they don't care about this case or that case, they're saying they don't care about any of it. It's going to get worse. I, of course, can't say what the future of this administration looks like specifically. I can't say that it will be this genocide against this group of people where they're all rounded up, although it does seem like prison camps, and specifically labor prison camps, are a part of it. We can see this mix of economic justification and general callousness and dismissal of laws and, yes, empathy in order to justify this already. They're telling you that they don't care. A question you could ask yourself is, how does this end? What does it look like? Nobody can say. It might be stopped before you notice that it's bad. It might pause for a while so that things can normalize more and then ramp up again. It might lead to some form of migrant detention, internment, labor camps, to bring manufacturing back to America. Awesome. But if they're saying that they don't care who falls through the cracks, and that there's an attack on specifically white European culture, or race, or man, or whatever, everyone outside of that is an enemy, an existential threat to them. They can and will label anyone illegal, a criminal, a terrorist, the enemy of the people, and undesirable. Their empathy map is small, and they have no problem shrinking it even more. So maybe it won't lead to a literal genocide, but this is part of the path. It's way easier to do if people don't see each other as humans. If people are told to put their families first and keep their heads down, then you can do anything you want. If you were wondering how the German people were able to ignore the atrocities around them, this is how. And now it's happening in real time here. When senators visit wrongfully deported and imprisoned people, the guy who started the CRT and DEI panic himself will call it empathy turned pathological. Never mind that these visits are also about, like, the law. Visiting these people, yes, displays empathy, but really it's about protecting people's rights. That's important to remember too. We could do an entire hour on why this is about protecting people's rights and how all of these pricks are lying about this and are pushing even more towards fascism and authoritarianism just in, like, a legal sense. And yes, empathy brings us together and helps us understand the world, etc., but it also helps us. It helps you and everyone. Even if you don't believe in empathy, you should want the rights of others protected, because that means they'll protect your rights too. And as we've already discussed, your rights aren't safe from these people either. They don't care. And the only real way to stop this from happening is to care, to fight back in this war, to win back empathy, which is way harder than it sounds, because frankly, it's easier right now to just kill that part of you, to look away, focus on other things, tell yourself it's not that bad. Get all Patrick Bateman up in that brain, because it's just so big otherwise. It's hard to have empathy when so many people are being hurt at once. And it's really easy to want to embrace the spite and hate when so many people are supporting such evil acts. But you can't. I'm sorry, you can't. And for the love of God, don't say the R slur. Like, come on. Seeing these quote-unquote enlightened centrists relish in being able to use an ableist slur again is embarrassing and pathetic. It's a word for dipshits and pricks. Get it together. There seems to be a pocket of liberals who think the answer to Trump is to have our own Trump, to meet their dehumanization with more dehumanization. Because again, it would be easier. But what we actually need is radical empathy. And it doesn't look like the R slur or Bill Maher saying that Trump is actually a nice guy in private and we should be nicer online. It looks like this.
Students at a Florida high school are outraged because a beloved teacher might be forced out of her job for calling a student by their preferred name instead of their legal name.
We're here to really show support for Ms. Calhoun and to show that we are not okay with what is going on and that we truly are upset that we are losing such a positive teacher.
To me, it really stems back to a First Amendment right of both the student and the teacher.
Those are kids defending their teacher who's being fired because of some anti-trans parents' rights trash law. You see, because those kids are thinking outside of their own families and putting the community first. They are defending the people they can. If some dirtbag teenager can do it, so can you, everywhere, for everyone.
Once you try a comfort hoodie, you can't go back to regular hoodies. They're slightly weighted, super oversized. It's that perfect fit.
Hundreds of people gathered at the Sackett Harbor Visitor Center to march in the rally, a show of support to demand the return of the family taken by ICE.
We want to support our neighbors to the north.
Many held signs shaming ICE agents and condemning the detainment of the young children and their mother.
That demonstration,
This is so beautiful, dude. That brings,
in Sackett's Harbor, New York, would grow into nearly 1,000 people before ICE would finally relent and free the family being detained. And I know we can't do this for every person kidnapped by ICE, but we should do it for as many as we can. And again, for anyone. We have to do this for people we might not like. People who, perhaps, voted for Trump and are now, hopefully, regretting it. Also, and this is important, we don't have to be nice to practice empathy. Like, yeah, protest peacefully, yada, yada, yada. But it's also an act of empathy to boo and jeer and thwart the people who are practicing cruelty. Don't let them tell you otherwise. Empathy isn't a synonym for civility or being polite. But empathy is an ideal, and it's something that needs to be fought for. Radical empathy, folks, a rejection of apathy and cruelty. Do not give them an inch. Do it now for others before you're the person who needs help. Or more importantly, I'm the person who needs help. Because, man, am I gonna be detained? Does Elon watch this show? Like, probably not, right? Like, he probably not. Like, we're not big enough for the gulag, right?
We might be. I might be small enough for the gulag.
This was all Warmbo's idea, by the way.
He has a Che Guevara shirt. Get him.
You want. Get Warmbo.
That was good, guys. All right, yo, I'm going to end the stream here. I appreciate you, anyone who stopped by. Subscribe for some more news. Don't get taken by ice, y'all.
Warmbo, come take a bow. Your big episode just got filmed. Warmbo, the people, they crave you. They crave Warmbo. They're applauding. The one time he won't show up. Warmbo, I'm ready for
Run,
Mr.
Warmbo,
Cody
run.
Wants a hug and a kiss. What do you want? Where are you?
Run, Warmbo.
Warmbo?
They took him.
Well, we're free, I guess.